All right, America, buckle up. It's that time again. It's election season again, and the stakes? Higher than a giraffe on stilts wearing a top hat. Seriously, folks, this is big. We're talking about the future of the free world, folks. The decisions we make now will echo for generations. Or at least the future of our Twitter feeds. And let's be real, that's where most of us get our news these days. On one side, we've got Kamala Harris, the former district attorney, senator, and vice president. She's been in the trenches, fighting for justice and equality. On the other, Donald Trump, the businessman turned reality TV star turned politician. Love him or hate him, he's a force to be reckoned with. They're about as different as a vegan buffet and a steakhouse that only serves well-done steaks. One's all about change, the other's about sticking to what they know. But both want the same gig leader of the free world. It's a high-stakes game, and only one can win. So let's break down their policies, their promises, and maybe, just maybe, figure out who's got the best shot at not driving this country into a ditch. It's a tough call, but someone's got to make it. Because let's be honest, the last few years have felt a bit like riding a roller coaster. That's on fire, and being driven by a raccoon. We deserve better, America. We need stability, vision, and leadership. Let's find out if either of these candidates can deliver. The future is in our hands, and it's time to make a choice. Let's dive in and see what they have to offer. First up, Kamala Harris. Think of her platform as a progressive playlist, a little something for everyone. She's all about affordable healthcare, tackling climate change, and reforming the criminal justice system. Now, she hasn't single-handedly solved world hunger or cracked the code for cold fusion, but as a senator, she did champion bills for affordable housing and criminal justice reform. And as vice president, she's been a vocal advocate for voting rights and economic equality. Her supporters see her as a tough but fair leader, someone who understands the struggles of everyday Americans. Of course, her critics, they'll tell you she's too liberal, too ambitious, or just doesn't have what it takes to handle the big chair. But hey, that's politics for you. It's like a middle school cafeteria, just with fewer food fights and more nuclear codes. Now let's hop over to the other side of the ring where we find Donald J. Trump. Love him or hate him, and let's be real, there's not a lot of middle ground here. You gotta admit, the man knows how to put on a show. His rallies are like rock concerts, filled with fervent supporters and a palpable energy that's hard to ignore. His policies? Think of them as a greatest hits album of conservative anthems, tax cuts, deregulation, and a whole lot of America first. This slogan became a rallying cry for his base, encapsulating his vision of prioritizing American interests above all else. He promised to make America great again, and depending on who you ask, he either delivered in spades or drove the country straight into a ditch. His tenure was marked by significant achievements and equally significant controversies. His supporters point to a booming economy, pre-pandemic at least, with record-low unemployment rates and a stock market that seemed to break new records every other week. A tough stance on immigration, which included building a wall along the southern border and implementing stricter immigration policies. And a foreign policy that put America first, sometimes to the detriment of, well, everyone else. His approach to international relations was unconventional, often shaking up the status quo. His critics? They'll tell you he's a danger to democracy, a bully, and a divisive figure who exacerbated political and social tensions. And a walking, tweeting example of why you shouldn't tweet at 3 a.m. His use of social media was unprecedented for a sitting president, often sparking controversy and debate. But hey, the man knows how to make headlines. Whether it was through his policies, his speeches, or his tweets, he kept the media and the public constantly engaged. Whether you love him or hate him, you can't ignore him. His impact on American politics and society is undeniable, and his legacy will be debated for years to come. Now, let's talk leadership styles. Kamala Harris is known for her measured approach, her legal mind, and her ability to stay cool under pressure, well, most of the time. She's a policy wonk, someone who believes in the power of government to make a positive difference in people's lives. Think of her as the valedictorian of the class, the one who always comes prepared and rarely, if ever, throws shade. Donald Trump, on the other hand, is all about gut instinct, bold pronouncements, and a healthy dose of self-promotion. He's a showman, a salesman, and a master of the Twitterverse, He's not afraid to ruffle feathers, pick a fight, or throw anyone under the bus, even if it's the bus driver. It's the tortoise and the hare, folks, but with less napping and a lot more tweeting. Section 5. Healthcare hustle, their impacts. Healthcare. It's a right, not a privilege. Or is it a privilege? Depends on who you ask. Kamala Harris is a staunch supporter of affordable healthcare for all. She's backed plans to expand coverage, lower costs, and protect people with pre-existing conditions. Think of her approach as a warm hug from a government bureaucrat. Donald Trump, on the other hand, spent his presidency trying to dismantle the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare. His plan, well, that's a bit of a mystery, much like the ending of Lost or the contents of a hot dog. He promised a beautiful healthcare plan, but it never materialized. Maybe he left it on a golf course somewhere, along with his tax returns. Section 6. Economy engine, revving or stalling. Let's talk about the economy, folks. That big, complicated machine that dictates whether we can afford avocado toast or have to settle for regular toast. Kamala Harris believes in a fair and just economy, one that works for everyone, not just the folks at the top. She's all about raising the minimum wage, investing in education and infrastructure, and closing the income gap. Think of it as a rising tide that lifts all boats, not just the yachts. Donald Trump, on the other hand, took a more trickle-down approach. Cut taxes for the wealthy, deregulate industries, and watch the good times roll. Or at least that was the idea. The jury's still out on whether his policies actually helped the average American, but one thing's for sure, he made sure his buddies on Wall Street were doing just fine. Section 7. World Stage Whispers Foreign Policy. Now, let's talk foreign policy. That delicate dance of diplomacy, alliances, and trying not to accidentally start World War III. Kamala Harris believes in a strong but smart approach to foreign policy. Think of it as a firm handshake, not a Twitter tirade. She's all about working with allies, promoting democracy, and standing up to dictators. She's not afraid to use military force when necessary, but she sees it as a last resort, not the first option. Donald Trump, on the other hand, preferred a more unconventional approach to foreign policy. Think of it as a bull in a china shop, but the china shop is the global order, and the bull is wearing a MAGA hat. He cozied up to dictators, alienated allies, and started trade wars with, well, pretty much everyone. His supporters called it disruptive, his critics called it reckless. You decide. Section 8. Character check, trust, and temperament. Now let's talk about something a little less tangible, but just as important. Character. Character is the bedrock of leadership, the unseen force that guides decisions and actions. Can we trust these candidates to do what's right, even when no one's looking? Trust is earned through consistent actions and integrity. Do they have the temperament, the judgment, the sheer willpower to lead this country through good times and bad? Temperament is crucial. It determines how a leader reacts under pressure. Kamala Harris has been praised for her intelligence, her work ethic, and her ability to connect with people from all walks of life. Her commitment to justice is evident in her long career as a prosecutor and senator. She has fought for the underrepresented and has a track record of standing up for what she believes is right. She's not perfect, no one is, but she's generally seen as a decent, honest person. Her ability to listen and adapt makes her a respected figure. Donald Trump, on the other hand, presents a stark contrast. Well, let's just say he's not exactly known for his humility, his empathy, or his grasp on the truth. His leadership style is often described as brash and confrontational. He's been accused of everything from sexual assault to obstruction of justice. These allegations have cast a long shadow over his presidency. He lies as easily as he breathes, creating a culture of mistrust and misinformation. His frequent falsehoods have been documented extensively. He seems to have a pathological need to be the center of attention, often using social media to stoke controversy and division. This need for constant validation has led to erratic behavior and impulsive decisions, which many argue have undermined the stability of the nation. Even if it means dividing the country he swore to serve, his actions have often prioritized personal gain over national unity. The question remains, who can we trust to lead with integrity and wisdom? Section 9. So, who you got? Picking a side. So, who's it going to be, America? The experienced politician with a progressive vision or the unpredictable showman with a penchant for chaos? The choice is yours and yours alone. But before you cast your vote, ask yourself this. What kind of country do you want to live in? Do you want a country that's more inclusive, more just, more compassionate? Or do you want a country that's more divided, more selfish, more focused on winning at all costs? It's a tough choice, no doubt about it. But it's a choice we all have to make. Section 10. Your vote, your voice, the final bell. Because at the end of the day, this election isn't about Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. It's about us. It's about the values we hold dear, the future we want to build, and the kind of country we want to leave for our children and grandchildren. So do your research, talk to your friends and family, and most importantly, vote. Your vote is your voice. And in a democracy, it's the only voice that truly matters. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need a drink and maybe a therapist.